Welcome once again, everybody. Sean O'Connell, Geoff Schwartz. Happy to be with you. Just because we like talking sports, we
Yes.
like talking sports with one another. Geoff, how are you?
Well, you're wearing a sweatshirt right now in Utah, and it's 89 degrees in Charlotte. So
Why?
I
Okay,
feel like
don't
we're
do
doing. I
this
feel
to
like
me.
we're doing this a little bit better on the East Coast for now. For now, until your mild summer catches up to you. But yeah, you sent me that photo of the snow like 2 days
Dude,
ago. I was shocked.
so Saturday was 75 degrees and sunny, just, little cotton candy clouds in the sky. It was a perfect day
Yeah,
in Salt Lake City. Saturday night, the wind started blowing, the clouds started gathering, and Sunday it snowed until Monday evening. 4.5 inches of snow at my
what?
house. All of my gardening stuff dead. The new trees we planted bent all the way over, touching the ground. I'm just like, what is happening here?
Does this happen? Snow this late typically or not?
Not so. There's always little flurries, right? You'll get
Yeah.
in April, sometimes May, even in June. I've driven through a snow squall in June in southern Utah. You'll get these kind of like interludes of bad weather, but it snows for an hour or two, and then the sun comes back out and it melts, and you're just like, ah, that was crazy, weird. This was a day and a half long, just sustained downpouring of sleet and then snow and then cold rain, and it just sucks. But I think we're clearing up. It's going to keep raining on and off. Thursday, we're back up to the
Yeah.
70s. So I wasn't going to complain about the weather, Geoff, because I love where I live. That much I didn't love, though.
I imagine you're feeling the same way that the Denver Nuggets feel about right now, just getting snowed in by the defense of the Wolves. Look, I'll be quite honest. I talk about the NBA. I follow it extensively in the playoffs. I wager on it a lot. I lost a lot of money last night. Nuggets being terrible. Okay, I did not know the Timberwolves were this good.
Well,
Like, or they're playing better than maybe a little bit better than we thought because Anthony Edwards is so good, at least at the
yes.
moment, right? I mean, he's getting Michael Jordan comparisons, which look is aggressive, but nonetheless, that's what we do in sports, right? We make comparisons. But I mean, to get a Michael Jordan comparison at age 22 in like your second, I think it's a second playoff series, right? A second playoff year. It's the first time they're sort of with expectations on the Timberwolves. And Gobert was out last night, and the Nuggets scored 80 points. Where was this Nuggets team when they played my Lakers, Sean? Where's this Jamal Murray when they play my Lakers? They play the KCP looks incredible against the Lakers. Not when he was a Laker, but all of a sudden, dude, I tell you what, man. We talk a lot in sports about offense. But there's something about watching good defense sometimes, Sean. It's just a great watch. Like it's not it's not like Iowa playing some schmo team in the Big Ten. It's 10-7. Like you get the defense with the offense for Minnesota, and man, they're fun to watch.
Well, when you talk about roster construction, there's the Knicks right now, the Timberwolves right now. There are teams in the NBA that are sort of bucking the 10, 15-year trend that existed in NBA basketball where you just had to stockpile superstars. I think maybe it started with the Miami Heat, and then you obviously saw it with the Golden State Warriors where it was like, hey, man, you better have 3 all-stars and one of them competing for an MVP if you want to win a championship. And these last couple of seasons, the NBA has swung back to team basketball, and they've swung back to, you need stars. Every championship contender in every sport needs stars or a star at least. And then you fill it in with some depth, and you fill it in with role players, and you fill it in with guys that are willing to play the kind of defense that you're seeing from the Timberwolves. You're filling it in with that gritty mentality and a culture within your team of sharing the basketball and that kind of thing. And I think it's a return to what a lot of old school basketball fans liked a little bit more than the hero ball era. But I don't know if the networks love it. I don't know if the talk shows love it, because what you have to do is you have to be like, Anthony Edwards is Michael Jordan. Jalen Brunson is Kobe. And it's just like, no, stop. Just don't do that. Okay? Just say that he's the best player on a good team.
Yeah. Well, the trend they also bucked too, I think, was Minnesota said, we're going to get big. Everyone's trying to get a little smaller, 3-pointers. And they're like, no, we're going to get huge. And look, and Cat shoots threes. It's not like they don't shoot threes, but they just got big. They got huge. And Gobert didn't even play last night. It didn't even matter. And then you add the superstars of what Edwards can do, what Brunson can do. The NBA very clearly has sort of the next crop of young stars with personality. Look, Jokic is a great player, Sean. He doesn't want to be a superstar. Like he's Mike Trout, right? Like he doesn't want to be like, and he has a great personality when he wants to talk about horses and like things that he wants to talk about, right? It's very funny. And when you get little glimpses of it every now and then, like on their social media accounts and whatnot, but I don't think he wants to be that forward-facing star of the NBA, just sort of like Mike Trout is, right? But Anthony Edwards feels like he's going to fill that void. Like we need the NBA, the NBA is going to need the next crop of players. And it feels like he's one of those guys. He might be the guy coming out of the postseason, right? It's not, I mean, Banchero plays on the Magic. He's really good. He's young, but the Magic aren't at the point the Wolves are at right now. I think people have been waiting for Jason Tatum to be that guy. He's not really that guy. Like, so it feels like Anthony Edwards, as of right now, and Brunson, by the way, is I think on that level. He plays for the Knicks. I'll tell you what, man, games in the Garden look different than anywhere else. Like that, those games looked incredible. Part of it is the lighting. The Lakers do this too, where they just light the floor and everyone else is dark, which the Lakers have done since the 80s. I love it. But so that's part of this too, is that Edwards is emerging as a star. And I think next year, obviously, if they go far in the playoffs, we'll start getting more Wolves games on national television. They'll be talking about Minnesota.
Which is so odd because even when they had like Kevin Garnett, who was absolute menace playing for Minnesota, it wasn't enough. People wanted to see.
Well, they didn't win.
Yeah, exactly. They want to see Kevin Garnett highlights. But the conversation was always like, when are we going to get him out of Minnesota? And
which seems to already have started. But I saw one show yesterday. It was like, he's going to leave eventually. Yeah, I mean, maybe, sure. But look, I think when we were kids and growing up watching sports, we were always told, I think rightfully so, that the stars wanted to be in the big cities. I certainly believe there's part of that. In certain parts of your career, you want to be somewhere. But with social media now, and the ability to market yourself and get your name out there, you don't have to be in New York and LA to be a big dog. Now, of course, if you want to be a movie star on top of being a basketball player, you want to be in the music industry, yes, being in New York and LA and Miami is fantastic. And Dallas, like those are all great places to be, but you can succeed in Minnesota, Sean, and get a shoe deal and get all the things that you want to do. It's not Los Angeles. I get that. But I don't think players are in kind of the same way that they were when we were kids, of having to be in the big city to get those marketing contracts.
Well, I think to your point, there's a certain age during your career, right, where you probably are starting to plan for the exit. You're starting to give yourself a runway. LeBron James, you're going to have a hard time. It's going to take, some explosives to get him out of LA.
Correct.
Because he's got a production company.
Yes.
And he's got an agency, and he's a guy that wants to be, he already is a billionaire, but he wants to be a power player in industries that are beyond basketball. I've never spoken with Anthony Edwards. I don't know if that's part of his plan in his 30s, but it's pretty clear that in his early 20s, that's not what he's looking forward to right now. What he's doing now is he's trying to be a great basketball player, and it's working out nicely. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony Edwards was in that Adam Sandler movie.
He was,
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was the bad guy, the villain.
He was like the bad guy. Great actor. Yeah. Great actor. He pulled it off in that movie. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he wants to be, with the Clippers sooner than later. But for now, I love this in every sport. I love it when you see it in Premier League soccer, where this team that has never had any kind of success all of a sudden wins. If the Minnesota Timberwolves, much like we saw with the Milwaukee Bucks a couple seasons ago, what we just saw with the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of coming out of nowhere and being a team that you have to watch, that's appointment viewing, and maybe a championship contender in these next 2 or 3 seasons. I love seeing that. It develops a false narrative that parity can actually exist in some of these leagues, but I guess it's more likely in the NBA than anywhere else.
But let's also be fair about all this too. If Anthony Edwards is not who he is, the Timberwolves aren't here. They hit a home run. They got the best player in that draft. I don't, maybe someone will be like, oh, they got someone else in that draft. Someone else made it better. I don't know. He's pretty good right now. They also hit a home run with the players they brought in. And I was listening to a podcast. I forget who this was, but I kind of like this idea that they were mentioning about stacking your roster where you sort of want to be able to have the different levels of veteranness, like years played. So they have Gobert as the old guy, Cat in the middle, and Edwards at the bottom, right? Where they have different players in their different eras, all sort of having a role and kind of ascending to that next level, right? So when Gobert's done playing, Cat's next up, and then Edwards is moving up to that point, and then someone else will fill Edwards' role. I kind of like the way the team got built really is successful, and they're going to beat the Nuggets. The Nuggets are not winning 4 next 5. So like they're moving on to the Western Conference Finals. Them against OKC is going to be, I think OKC wins that series, but even if it's not, you get Luka and Kyrie. Like we stress all the time, Sean, about the next, who's next. A series between OKC and their youth and the Nuggets, and again, they have older players, but the youth of that team in the situation is it's OKC in Minnesota. It's not Los Angeles and Chicago, but I have to feel like that's a win for the idea that the next is coming up in NBA.
Yeah, I think what you saw with especially LeBron is always going to be the one that, people focus most on. Like, he's still a great player. He still is productive, but he's not the LeBron of old. So I think that people are ready to turn the page and say, okay, championship LeBron is not here anymore.
No, I don't think he is.
Will he be part of a championship team if he wants to be? Sure. Right? If he wants to take a smaller role and a lower salary and something like that. But I don't think that's what LeBron's going to do. I don't think he's going to do the Shaq thing where he just kind of bounces around on one-year contracts.
I guess the theory between NBA people is like Philly would be that place he could go in this offseason. I can't see him working with Embiid and that situation going well. What would the process be called if all of a sudden LeBron gets there? It's not just the end process. the end process.
The end of life care process.
It actually worked, guys. We have LeBron and Embiid, and I would imagine Tobias Harris is not there anymore. You have Maxey. I mean, that's enough. Those are 3 enough to win right there. The Lakers need their Maxey. They need their Anthony Edwards at the moment. They don't have that youth.
I also want one more point on the Timberwolves. I want to see Rudy Gobert win a championship. Develop some affection for Rudy when he was with the Utah Jazz.
News, Sean O'Connell.
And broke some news on Rudy's future. And look, if Rudy can win a championship and the Timberwolves can win a championship after that trade, and then the Utah Jazz can make good on the absolute haul of picks that they got in exchange for Rudy Gobert, you might see in pro sports the rare unicorn of both teams in a trade winning.
Yeah.
Right? Both teams can win a trade if you're talking about a veteran player, a current player, an established player being exchanged for future commodities, and that's what that one was. If the Timberwolves get what they need out of Gobert and they can win a championship, and you could probably make the argument that making it to a Western Conference final is a win in and of itself.
For that franchise, yes.
But if they can, take home the ultimate prize, and then the Jazz can make good on these draft picks and use these assets properly, both franchises win. That doesn't happen in pro sports very often.
The rare win-win-win. When Michael Scott was like, dude, I just catch Office every now and then. It just remains the absolute best. My wife won't really watch it with me, even though she laughs every time I put it on. It's just a Meredith thing, just to spite me in purpose.
I don't like that. I'm probably as big a fan of your wife as anyone in the world, but you can't be so counterculture that you don't like The Office. That's too much. You've gone too far.
She also doesn't like Parks and Rec. She's just like Amy Poehler. I have no idea why. Like, why do you not like her? She can't even give an answer. She's like, I don't like her. So NBA, any other NBA playoff thoughts? I've enjoyed. Look, it's fun to watch, man. The Knicks Pacers series is going to be great. How long can Brunson just do it by himself? Obviously, Josh Hart played well in game 1. Indiana, I think that game feels like it's going to 6 or 7 games. But
reminds me of of young, chubby Sean O'Connell in fourth grade wearing his Patrick Ewing jersey that I had to get my uncle to bring out from the East Coast because they weren't selling that stuff in the stores in Salt Lake. That was Stockton Malone era. Watching Reggie Miller just rip my heart out.
Oh yeah,
Knicks Pacers were something, man.
They and they highlight that at the beginning. Obviously, Reggie Miller wasn't there. I think he's working, right? He did the next game, I believe. That would have been crazy if they put him on that game. That would have been something. That would have been fantastic. But they had the Spurs there.
Spike Lee wouldn't have stood for it.
They had, I think John Starks was there, right? I think I saw Ewing was there. The entire Yankees team was there.
They did it right. They kept cutting back to the legends. They did a little in arena.
Was Marbury there? Was that Marbury too? There
was Marbury there.
Okay, yeah.
Starbury, right?
Yeah.
Chinese billionaire Starbury. He went over there and sold like 1 billion pairs of shoes.
Smart.
Awesome.
Brilliant, awesome. Brilliant. But this is why games in New York, and this is why players want to play in New York and want to play in LA. The games feel bigger because the celebrities are there. I'm not saying that it can't happen anywhere else, but games in the Garden. Look, I've seen some Rangers playoff games there. The year they went to the Cup in 2014, I was with the Giants. I went to one game, a series till it was kind of funny, Sean. The first round, they gave the Giants players like 8 tickets. The second round, it was 6. The Eastern Conference Finals was like 4, and then the Stanley Cup was like only Eli gets to go. It was like they tiered the system where I didn't even ask. I'm like, I went to Game 6. They clinched Game 6 in the Garden against the Flyers. It was so much fun. But Knicks games, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about watching games there, watching games in LA sometimes. It just feels different.
The difference is when you leave Madison Square Garden after this like glitz and glamour and you exit, then you're in this post-apocalyptic wasteland of Manhattan right now. There's just rats as big as
it's insane
Yorkshire Terrier coming after you.
It is wild how that how you just, it's in the middle of this giant city, like in the city that it's just, when you think of arenas, I think you feel like the bigness of it is like it's arena itself, and in New York City, in New York City, it's not at all that way. It's just sitting there in the middle of this huge city.
It's very easy if you're not looking for Madison Square Garden to miss Madison Square Garden.
It doesn't look like an arena because it's sunk down the ground. So
that's right.
It just looks like a regular building on the outside.
In so many other cities in America, like that's a landmark. That's this prominent piece of architecture and the signage, and you're just like, oh, there's the link. All right, I'm in Philadelphia now. Not the case. Not necessarily the case with Madison Square Garden, but it's the Mecca. Like as a combat sports guy, I've fought there. I've called fights there.
I don't have the sound to play. Where's Kono at? Play the sound, Kono.
Sean O'Connell's going to New York City.
The Garden reminds me of the Forum growing up as a kid watching Lakers games where we saw the Tom Brady roast. Okay. Sean, I did not watch it live. Okay, I kept seeing tweets about the Tom Brady roast.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was 3 hours. First of all, I've gone through about half of it. I've skipped some of the non-comedians, like I skipped Randy Moss. I was told Edelman and Gronk were good, so not to skip them. I skipped Bledsoe, Nikki Glazer. First of all, credit Tom Brady for doing this because clearly lots of jokes he didn't care about. Some were, he could tell a little bit.
The Giselle stuff you didn't love.
No, but holy shit, was that funny, man.
Dude.
That was unbelievably funny, and I credit everyone there for just going for it. Like that was a roast of things that were said that a lot of jokes aren't said that way anymore. Not that night. I loved every part of it. It was fantastic.
It was really, really good. And annoying in the fact that Tom Brady, everything that Tom Brady touches kind of turns to gold, and I'm not the biggest Tom Brady fan out there, but again, this was absolutely fantastic. Tony Hinchcliffe was so funny. Nikki Glazer was so funny. I thought Belichick was good. Gronk was amazing.
I haven't got there yet. Supposedly he wrote his own jokes.
He tells you the jokes that he wrote. It's so good. It was just awesome. Bledsoe was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, he takes it in stride for what it was. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He has a huge winery. It's not like he's struggling in life. It was the number 1 pick. Like he's got plenty of money. to me, the biggest winner of this all was Bill Belichick, who for years has been portrayed as a curmudgeon, which he might be. I never played for him. Guys will tell you he's not that way that played for him, and clearly did not get a job in this cycle, Sean, because of his rigidity and the image that we have of Bill Belichick. And in like 2 appearances in the last month, the McAfee show for the draft and this, and he's going to do the Manning cast. You look at him completely different. Like, where has this been, Coach? Where has this, and the Apple TV doc, which I didn't even finish because I thought it was just a little heavy-handed on the anti-Belichick stuff, but they killed him in that too. I thought he's the biggest winner of all. Like, Nikki Glazer's funny. We know she's funny.
Yeah,
she's a special coming out, by the way. Shocking that she did this like a week before special comes out. I'll watch it. Like, she got me. You won. I'll watch your special this weekend. But Bill comes out to me number one. Like, his personality, the jokes, which I also like. What I liked about the show, by the way, is I've had to do a couple times in my life, read off a prompter, read a joke. Some of the Oregon recruiting events that I'm on. It's much harder than you think, okay? It is much harder.
I'll tell you what. They tried to put me on prompter when I started doing stuff for the PFL.
Yes.
And I was just like, no. And they're like, no, we need you on prompter. And I said,
wait, so stuff you do now is no prompter?
No prompter.
Okay. I don't, the reading the prompter is not the hard part. If you're not telling a joke that requires like timing, and requires all this stuff. And they had to like, and two, the comedians were not comedians, but the non-comedians were turning like toward the person to talk to them while they were trying to read the teleprompter at the same time. And the time, I just loved how real it was. Like Belichick the timing was sort of messed up on his jokes. And remember, he told the audience one time to like, quiet, I'm not done with my joke yet. Like, I just loved how it was authentic. Like, these guys, they never told jokes off a prompter before. They went for it. I liked it. And then, again, they didn't write them for the most part unless it was Gronk. So, it's a new medium for them. But I thought they went with the punch. Like, I like the authenticity of that whole thing.
I feel like the number one sign that you've arrived in American culture is that you qualify. You're famous enough to have a roast. Like, I think that's one of the things. If you can be roasted, you're a big, big, big deal. And they do a great job. I've liked almost all of the Comedy Central roasts that I've watched, and this Netflix followed the exact same model of it. Kevin Hart was funny. The live status of it, the fact that they did this one live, I think lent itself to some of that stuff you're talking about, where they're not editing out when Gronk's like, no, scroll back. I want to read this joke. Like, that's funny. That was really cool. And I thought you especially would like the fact that up there on the stage, you had the dais, you had the people who were actually doing their thing. Then you had like Tom Brady's offensive line all sitting behind him.
From both offensive lines. Tampa Bay was on the other side behind This is Tom Segura and Kreischer. They were back there. I texted Ryan Jensen. I was like shocked. I was like, good for you, buddy. He was the redhead in the back.
Nate Solder was not having any kind of he was having less fun than anyone at that show. When they, they kept cutting to and you see Matt Light is just cracking up, having a great time. And Solder's sitting next to him just like.
That was Soldier? He was really skinny and bald?
Yeah, the skinny tall guy. That's Nate Solder, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Tampa Bay line was there. The only part I haven't liked so far was I thought the two Bears, that was not their best.
It wasn't their best.
And I like their guys.
Those guys are both funny, but that was not a good bit.
Like Bert reading off a teleprompter like that does not feel like what he does well.
I had never heard of Sam J before. I didn't know who that person was.
Fantastic.
Really good. Very, very funny. So, I've been a Nikki Glazer fan for a while. Kevin Hart is, I think he's funny. I mean,
I've been to a stand-up. It's. I thought it was. I basically. There's almost no comedy I don't like. I kind of like just to laugh.
I just like enjoying myself, and I'm happy that there's a pop culture thing that I actually watched, consumed, understood that I can have an opinion on, because I have no bleeping clue what's going on with this Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. I'm just I'm so far outside of it, and it is dominating so much conversation in pop culture right now. And I'm like, I have no idea. So the Tom Brady roast made me feel like I got invited back to the party a little bit.
I'm pretty good at pop culture. No idea what's happened in that beef. I think Kendrick's winning, according to Twitter. I think people don't like Drake and have been afraid to say it, and now they can say they don't like Drake. But I tried to listen too. Like I was like, oh, okay, but I don't know any of the background, any of these beefs. I feel very boomer. I don't feel boomer very often, Sean. This is one, and I feel like it's not something you can just read an article like on Variety about. Like it's not like there's no catching up. Like you're either in or you're out, and me and you, buddy, we're very out.
Yeah, I feel super old when not only do I haven't really listened to it, I don't know the context of the beef, but when I see people who I follow, people who I know, even people who like I have normal conversations with in life, I see them tweeting about and like breaking down the most recent whatever entrance to the beef. Yeah. And I have no idea what they're even talking about. Like the terminology they're using is foreign to me. What they are referencing, I'm like, is that the title of the song? That is, and who released it? Was it Kendrick? Was it Drake? And wait, why is this one mentioning? Why is this one mentioning Usher? Or why is P. Diddy in this one? I have no idea. So I am well outside of that. The Tom Brady roast, I was like, okay, I recognize these people. Okay, this is funny. I've seen these people before. I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. I'm aware of most of them. Sam J was a revelation to me there. I knew who the football players were. It's like, all right, we're back, baby. We're back.
Does Sam J have stand-up? I wonder if...
I think Sam J is a stand-up comedian, right?
Let me say, does she have like what special? I mean...
Oh, no idea.
Oh, she works for Saturday Night Live. Oh no, she's a Netflix comedy special. I gotta check that out.
Great.
There we go. All right, my dog is like dreaming right now. He's making weird noises. Let's looking down. But
it's the funniest thing in the world when dogs are sleeping and they got that little like their little cheek starts to
that's what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they run. They run sometimes.
Oh, buddy. All right. College football. It's kind of a downtime. It's nice. Spring practice done, portal basically done. Congratulations, by the way, the Utah Utes. Sam Heward, new quarterback for the Utah Utes, just committed.
And they just got the #1 basketball recruit from the state of Utah ever, basically, Caleb Lohner, who was at one time committed to Utah basketball. And then he went to BYU basketball. Then he went to Baylor basketball. He is now committed to Utah football, Geoff Schwartz.
Wow.
This kid is like, he's 6'8", 245 pounds, and all signs point to him probably being a special weapon in some sort of like 14 personnel tight end package. So that's going to be interesting because I don't think he did. Well, I don't think he did not even play high school football.
Yeah. So he'd be one of those guys like the Antonio Gates we'll have to hear about the rest of his life.
Yeah.
When he played basketball.
The Jimmy Graham types. And you know what? I played with a guy at Utah who this was his story. He didn't play football until he was a basketball dude and was a really talented baseball pitcher. And
sounds familiar.
They finally talked him into playing football at a junior college, and he ended up in the NFL. So that's what they're going to try to do with this kid.
I was looking at early lines. They already have lines up for a bunch of games this year. Week 1 and whatnot. I almost made one.
Such a degenerate.
I almost made one wager. I'll tell you which one I almost made. Utah is at Colorado November 16th, so the week before the Holy War, right? Because all the rivalry games I think now move mostly. The conference rivalry games now move to the end of the season for everyone, right? Not
BYU Utah though.
Oh, it's not the final week of the year? Okay.
No, BYU Utah is like the 7th of November.
Okay. So maybe it's November 16th, though, I believe. Utah's favored by 8 on the road to Colorado. That number is going to be like 14 or higher by kickoff, in my opinion. Like, so I might bet that now as just kind of hedging that I think at the end of this season, Utah can't have the injuries they had last season. It's impossible. Right. So they're going to be healthy. Cam Rising is the same age as us, so he's going to be playing well. And at that point in the season, I think this is a good number. I might bet Utah -8 all the way out for a game that's not played for 7 more months.
Okay. Does it change your opinion at all that is coming on the heels of the Holy War game? Now, BYU is not supposed to be good this year at all.
So a letdown spot.
And
man.
Utah has a home game for that BYU contest, and then they're on the road at Colorado after that. So,
I mean,
does it change your opinion at all?
At Houston, bye week, BYU, Colorado looks like. No, because that bye week I think breaks up a little bit, right? No, Utah doesn't strike me as a team that plays down like that, right? Like an emotional team that's for young teams, right? Young programs.
I don't think Colorado is going to get that from anyone anymore because of the way that they talk. They do the social media thing, because of the recruiting situation, because of the fact that people pay so much attention to Colorado, and it's going to happen again this year. And people are either going to be like, "Man, this Colorado team, you got a number 1 draft pick rising in either Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders." That gets your attention if you're on this Utah football team. Or if things aren't going well at Colorado and people are just like, dude, you can't lose to Colorado. This Colorado team was all glitz, all glamour, all show, no go. You can't lose to a team like that. Kyle Whittingham and company, I think in general, sort of detest the whole identity of what Colorado football looks like right now. So I don't think the Utes especially are going to have a problem getting up for a game against Colorado, even if it comes off a rivalry game, a true rivalry game. I don't think anybody is really going to overlook Colorado because the television networks won't. So
no, we have Clemson, Georgia, week 1 as well, the 31st. Georgia almost 2 touchdown favorite there. Miami, Florida. Miami plays Florida. Miami, Florida also is the same team. Florida's slight underdog there. Fresno State and Michigan. I feel like the Fresno State here, they're getting 22 points. Isn't that like a great spot for Fresno State? Michigan's going to be honoring their championship team, probably new coaches come in there and just you've been practicing this for 7 months. Give Michigan.
They lost 15 guys. Was it 13 or 15 guys to the NFL draft? Not even free agents.
Look, man, the one thing about this 12-team playoff that's nice, I think schools are not afraid to schedule games anymore. We have Notre Dame A&M in week 1. We have LSU and USC on Sunday. USC is getting 6 points. That game probably is in Dallas, right? I would imagine. That's not a home and home, is it? That's in Vegas. I think it's in Vegas. The next week we have Texas, Michigan. I mean, like Alabama, Wisconsin this year we got. These games, man, I think teams aren't afraid to schedule these anymore. And now we get these conference games that are there's so much. Look, the trade-off obviously is instead of playing Cal, you play Michigan for Oregon, right? It's, you said Utah playing Arizona State, they're playing Oklahoma State. I mean, maybe because it's new and we're looking forward to it, but it does feel like the games will be good this year, even if we don't agree with maybe how the conference realignment happened.
Yeah, look, I think that it's all going to work out okay for teams that you and I have covered for a long time. The Pac-12 dissolution sucks.
Yeah,
I will always say that. I think it's going to work out for Oregon has done an incredible job in the transfer portal. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that now they're a Big Ten team, or if it's just because Dan Lanning is an absolute monster on the recruiting trail and always has been. Plus, he's got the new Oregon assets. I think Oregon is going to work out just fine. Washington, I'm really curious about. I'm as big a fan of Jed Fish as there is out there, so I have a belief that even if it's not immediate gratification, I think the Huskies are going to be glad they hired him, and it's going to work out okay for them even in the Big Ten. And I saw Joel Klatt, who's one of my favorite guys who covers this game. I saw him talking about Utah yesterday, that Utah is his favorite and a lot of people's favorite to win the Big 12 conference, and that irks a bunch of folks in the Big 12, Kansas State fans, Oklahoma State fans, TCU fans. Everybody hates that, but that roster coming back should be a college football playoff roster for the University of Utah. We'll see.
Yeah, we will. The other story, Sean, that I know we wanted to touch real quickly was, we talked about this the other day. They're talking about, the revenue share with the players now, right? And what that would cost, how it would look. We theorized that this couldn't be done without forming unions, and it feels like they're trying to get their way around it. How are they planning to do this without a union now?
Well, they want to collectively bargain without employee status. So players would effectively agree to a union without being officially professionally unionized. That you collectively bargain, you ask for more revenue, you ask for the freedom that you've always or that you've been campaigning for, and that you've mostly been granted now as a student athlete with transfer and things like that. Longer term healthcare, better healthcare, that kind of thing, all on the agenda for what would essentially be a non-guaranteed compensation. There's no minimum wage, so to speak. There's no baseline salary, but you are collectively bargaining for a larger slice of the college football pie.
This feels a lot like the quote unquote owners would win in this. Like if we're looking at sort of the idea of a collective bargaining agreement, doesn't it feel like colleges don't agree to this unless it's just set up great for them?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that players shouldn't go for this because it's money that you currently are earning for your universities and aren't seeing, and it's because of your play on the field. And I do think I think we've done a bad job of devaluing the brand on the front of the jersey. That matters a lot too. But you are part of earning that money for your university. But again, I still have so many questions about this, Sean. Who gets paid what? What do the women's sports get? Is it just for football? Is NIL still a thing? I'll tell you very quickly on the Oregon front. The reason Oregon's doing so well, Lanning's good at his job, but they also have the best collective around. It's not here again, guys. It's not about showing up at a recruit store and handing them a bag of money and saying, "Here, come to Oregon." They are not going to do something illegal while it's legal. It's legal to pay the players. They're not going to do something illegal. They're not going to get caught doing something dumb. They're too smart for this. So they set up a program where players sign to Oregon, then sign a contract, and then get whatever in the contract. And part of that becomes obligations you have to fulfill, marketing obligations, and it's tailored differently to everyone. And so is Oregon going to agree to a system that pulls away that option for them, for players? Probably not. Why they agree? So I think that it would be on top of that, right? So you could still do the NIL plus then pay the players a base salary.
The NIL genie is never going back in the bottle, period. It's not happening. There's no way for it to happen. There's too many legal protections. There's too many decisions that have already been made in the court system. NIL is now here to stay in college athletics. The question of employee status, non-employee status, benefits everyone who knows that they're never going to get NIL money.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. That's the players. And that's, by the way, that's more players than not that are looking at it and they're going, well, look, man, like that 5-star guy got $200,000 to come here.
Yeah.
I got a free truck to drive, which is great, but I want some of that money too. I would get money if I was an employee. Yes, you might. Yeah. And you also might get fired if you're an employee. And as we've talked about that a lot. So I think at least the exploration of a middle ground here is crucial. And that's why I appreciate this theory. If it never comes to fruition, fine. But the idea that maybe there's a middle ground to be found, that maybe guaranteed compensation, a minimum wage, whatever, which would decimate athletic departments and kill your soccer team and kill everything else. Maybe, just maybe, there's a way you can do this where instead of saying, yep, you're guaranteed money, you say, here's what we're going to do instead. This is the pool of money that everyone gets to share if we do this. If you win a championship, your NIL collective now gets an extra $5 million that they get to distribute however. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, but finding creative solutions here is, I think, paramount.
The last part of this to me, and again, because I dealt with this a little bit with the NFL and NFLPA, is medically, like how are the players going to just ask for money in this situation, Sean? Are going to ask for medical expenses to be paid for injuries post-college? Like, is there going to be a consideration toward that part of it? Because that could derail a lot of the discussion. Because NFL, obviously, there's workers' comp you can file, but after 5 years, you're off NFL insurance. And they're notoriously I'll tell you this, it's way easier now to get coverage for things post-retirement than it has been previously. So there are options available. But do you think the players will fight for healthcare for anything like that? Or are they going to focus on the money?
They're going to focus on the money.
Yeah.
And because they're going to be focused on the money, they're more likely to be taken advantage of because it's like, all right, 10 grand, shut up. Cool.
Yeah.
Got it. And look, that's, we talked about this before. That's one of the difficulties of trying to get 10,000 people to agree to one system.
Yeah. No, it just is. I'm curious to see where it goes. Things have moved much faster than I thought they would, Sean. Even though I'm curious once August comes and the conference realignments and go through and start happening, if that sort of everything slows down a little bit. But we'll find out. Anything else you'd like to?
We'll find out. That's all we got for today because I got to go.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
I got to go.